My stepfather bequeathed his entire estate to me in his will, prompting my mother to attempt to have me declared mentally unfit. Theodore wasn't my biological father, but he was the only one who ever truly acted like one. He married my mother when I was 8, after my real dad vanished into alcoholism, never to return. While other step-parents grumbled about taking on someone else's child, Theodore embraced me. He taught me chess, guided me through schoolwork, and genuinely listened when I shared my thoughts, from childish schoolyard tales to my aspirations for college and fears about adulthood. My mother, Diana, put up with our bond because Theodore's wealth funded her lavish lifestyle, designer clothes and exclusive club memberships. She'd scoff when he took me fishing on weekends or spent hours explaining the importance of education. "You're indulging her too much," she'd say, inspecting her flawless manicure as Theodore helped me with math. "She needs to know her place." "Her place is wherever she decides it should be," Theodore would reply softly, his tone firm but calm. Diana would storm off to her room, slamming the door like a petulant child. Theodore would just smile and resume explaining equations as if nothing had happened. He had a gift for making me feel like I mattered most, even during Diana's outbursts. Theodore owned 3 thriving restaurants and had made shrewd investments over the years. His financial acumen even impressed Diana, who was always chasing his wealth. He'd started with a modest eatery downtown and turned it into a local empire through grit and business savvy. When he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer at 67, I took leave from my teaching job to care for him. Diana hired a nurse but rarely visited, claiming hospitals gave her anxiety and the antiseptic smell triggered migraines. In truth, she was preoccupied with redecorating the house using his medical insurance funds and planning her life after Theodore. I overheard her on calls with decorators discussing timelines for when the house would be hers again. "This is just temporary," she told a contractor. "We'll have it all ready in 6 months." She spoke of Theodore's illness like it was a minor inconvenience. I sat with him during chemo, holding his frail hand as toxins dripped into his veins, while Diana was at home choosing new wallpaper. In his final days, Theodore gripped my hand, his fingers bony and cold, and whispered, "You're the daughter I never had. Everything I built should go to someone who values it." I thought he meant emotionally. I had no clue he meant every cent of his fortune. The day after his funeral, his attorney called for a private meeting. Diana assumed it was routine paperwork and sent me alone, likely expecting I'd just sign everything over to her. "Just take care of it," she said, dismissing me as she sorted through condolence bouquets. "I'm too devastated to deal with legalities." She wasn't too devastated to plan a full home remodel, but documents were apparently too much. What I learned at the lawyer's office changed everything. Theodore had left me his entire estate, valued at $2.3 million, restaurants, investments, a lake house, even his cherished vintage car collection, which he'd curated for 2 decades. Diana was granted a monthly stipend of $3,000, enough to sustain her lifestyle but far from controlling the wealth. My hands shook as I stared at the papers. This can't be correct. "There's no error," said Whitman, the elderly attorney who'd known Theodore for 30 years, giving a somber smile. "He planned this meticulously. He knew how Diana would react." "Why didn't he tell me?" I asked. "Why keep it secret?" "He thought you'd try to decline it. He wanted to ensure Diana couldn't pressure you into giving it up before you understood its significance." Whitman handed me a sealed envelope in Theodore's handwriting. "He left this for you." With trembling hands, I opened the letter. Theodore's familiar script spanned 3 pages. "Quinn, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and you're likely overwhelmed. You've been more of a daughter to me than Diana was a wife. She married me for wealth and status, but you loved me for me. That's worth more than all my investments. I know Diana will fight this. She'll say you don't deserve it, that you're too young, that you tricked me. None of that's true. You've earned this through a decade of kindness, care, and being the family I never had. Don't let her take it. You've seen me build these businesses. You understand their value beyond money. Diana sees cash. You see the employees, the customers, the legacy. Trust Whitman. Trust yourself. You're stronger than you know. I've seen you stand up to Diana since you were a kid. That strength will guide you now. Use this wealth to create something meaningful. Help others, like you always helped me. Wherever I am, I'm proud of you. Love always, Dad." I broke down in Whitman's office, clutching the letter. When I returned home hours later, Diana greeted me with champagne and a forced smile, the one she used when she wanted something costly. She'd dressed up, as if we were celebrating. "So, how much did we get?" she asked, practically vibrating with anticipation. "I've already spoken to the contractor about a kitchen expansion and a sunroom." "Oh, and I found a gorgeous Mediterranean cruise package. We deserve a break after all this. She was already spending Theodore's money before he was even buried. I took a deep breath, gripping his letter in my pocket. Actually, he left it all to me. You get a monthly allowance. The champagne glass shattered against the wall, shards glittering like dangerous confetti. Diana's facade vanished. "That's impossible!" she screamed. "I'm his wife. I gave him 15 years. You're just some kid he pitied." Her tirade lasted hours. How could a 24-year-old manage family wealth? I was too young, too foolish, too selfish. It had to be a mistake. Theodore must have been dazed by medication when he signed the will. "We'll fight this," she snarled, her nails digging into her palms. "No court will let a kid inherit millions. I'll prove you coerced him while he was dying." For 3 days, she called lawyers, her voice growing more frantic with each rejection. I overheard her through the walls, ranting about disloyal stepdaughters and confused old men. Most attorneys told her the will was ironclad. Theodore had been deemed mentally sound weeks before his death. "But she's just a teacher," Diana shrieked into the phone. "I'm his wife. I gave him my best years. I deserve that money." Every lawyer gave the same answer. The will was legal, witnessed, and airtight. Diana's desperation grew. The house became a battlefield. She'd slam doors, throw objects, and mutt thinking about ungrateful children. She started drinking heavily, downing a bottle of wine nightly while scheming her next move. "You think you're clever," she'd slur at me over dinner. "But you're just a naive girl. I know things about Theodore you'll never understand. I'll get what's mine." Then she found a lawyer who suggested a new tactic. On Tuesday, Dr. Morrison arrived with a briefcase and a smile that chilled me. Diana introduced him as a psychiatrist specializing in mental competency assessments. His slick demeanor set off alarms in my head. "I understand you've been under immense stress," he said, settling into Theodore's favorite chair like he owned it. His tone was clinical, but his eyes were calculating. Losing a parental figure and inheriting vast wealth can trigger mental health issues in young people. My stomach sank. "What kind of issues?" "Delusions of grandeur, paranoid thoughts, inability to make sound financial choices." His pen moved across his notepad before I'd answered. "Your mother's worried about your recent behavior," he continued. Diana jumped in as if she'd rehearsed. "She's been talking to Theodore's spirit, claiming he's guiding her investments. Yesterday I caught her in his office arguing with no one about restaurant upgrades." My face paled. 2 days prior, I'd been verbalizing business decisions aloud, a habit Theodore taught me during chess games. "Work through problems out loud," he'd said. "If it sounds wrong, it probably is." I'd been in his office, reviewing financials, asking aloud, "Theodore, what would you do with the Highland Street property?" It was my way of processing grief, not conversing with ghosts. "That's not what happened," I started, but Diana cut me off. "She's also hoarding money," she said smoothly. "Won't buy groceries or pay bills. Says the money isn't real until Theodore tells her how to use it." This was a lie. I'd been waiting for probate to clear before spending, as Whitman advised. I'd paid for groceries and utilities with my salary, but Diana twisted frugality into insanity. Dr. Morrison scribbled notes. "Have you heard voices directing your inheritance decisions?" he asked. "No," I said firmly, but he wrote anyway. "Your mother mentioned you stay up all night, pacing and muttering about unqualified business choices." I'd been studying Theodore's business journals to understand my inheritance, complex operations with multiple locations, employees, suppliers, and regulations. I wanted to be ready, but explaining that would sound obsessive. The evaluation lasted 2 hours. Every normal grief response was spun into mental instability. Feeling overwhelmed by responsibility became an anxiety disorder. Crying over Theodore's belongings was an unhealthy fixation. Sleepless nights worrying about employees' livelihoods were severe depression. "Have you noticed appetite changes?" Dr. Morrison asked. "I haven't eaten much since Theodore died," I admitted. "Significant weight loss suggests severe depression," he noted. Diana added, "I'd been wearing the same clothes for days because I'd been wearing Theodore's old sweaters for comfort." Grief became poor hygiene in his notes. "Do you believe Theodore communicates with you?" "No, of course not." "But you talk to him?" "I think aloud sometimes." "And you believe he chose you specially?" He left a letter explaining. "Can I see this letter?" I hesitated. The letter was private, filled with personal memories. "It's personal," he wrote. "Patient refuses to share alleged communication from deceased stepfather. Possible delusion. Every word I said was twisted." "I recommend a 72-hour psychiatric hold," Dr. Morrison concluded, snapping his notebook shut. "For your safety and to protect the estate from rash decisions." Diana's relief was palpable, her smile predatory. She knew a competency declaration would let her petition for conservatorship, undoing Theodore's plans. "When does this start?" she asked, barely hiding her glee. "I'll file the paperwork today. An ambulance will arrive tomorrow around noon," Dr. Morrison replied. They discussed my commitment like it was a social event. "Can she fight this?" Diana asked. "Once committed, her legal standing weakens," he said. "Courts prioritize asset protection." "How long will she be held?" "Depends on treatment response. Some need extended care. They plan to lock me away indefinitely." That night, I whispered to Whitman from my room while Diana celebrated downstairs with Theodore's rare wine. "They're trying to commit me. Can they take the inheritance?" "If a court declares you incompetent?" "Yes," he said grimly. "Diana would likely gain control. Dr. Morrison has a history of dubious diagnoses in inheritance cases." "What do you mean?" "I researched him. He's been in 6 similar disputes in 5 years. Wealthy person dies, family contest, the will, and the inheritor suddenly needs evaluation. His success rate for incompetence findings is suspiciously high. That's illegal, right? Proving it's the issue. He's careful with documentation. Once you're committed, your credibility vanishes." I hung up, listening to Diana's laughter below. She was already spending my inheritance in her mind. Theodore had shielded me from her greed, but not her ruthlessness. By morning, I resolved to fight back. Diana was cheerful that morning, humming as she made coffee and cooked breakfast. A first since Theodore's diagnosis. "The hospital's coming at noon," she said, as if discussing a haircut. "Pack comfy clothes. You'll be there at least 3 days, maybe longer depending on what they find." She'd orchestrated everything. Ambulance, facility, likely my room. "Diana, is this really right?" I asked cautiously. Her mask fell. "You stole 15 years of my life, Quinn. I married Theodore for security, and then you came with your sob story and doe eyes. He spent more on your tuition than on me. I was his wife, but you were his world. Now I'm supposed to watch you get everything while I'm on an allowance? No way." Something in me hardened. I wasn't going down easily. I called in sick to work and recorded Diana on my phone as she rehearsed lies for the doctors, my supposed instability, my lifelong oddities, how Theodore was too kind to see my issues. "She's always been strange," I heard her tell someone, likely Dr. Morrison. "Too attached to Theodore. Probably manipulated him during chemo. The hypocrisy was infuriating. She accused me of her own tactics." At 11:30 a.m., I heard voices downstairs, likely the ambulance crew arriving early. "She's been having episodes," Diana said, her voice dripping with fake worry. "Talking to herself, making irrational financial choices. We fear she'll harm herself or others." While they searched the house, calling my name, I slipped out the back with my laptop and Theodore's files. I remembered his lake house had security cameras installed after a break-in. I drove 40 minutes there, hands trembling, stopping twice to steady myself. If the cameras were still active, they might have recorded my talks with Theodore during his last visits, proving I wasn't delusional, just grappling with my inheritance. The lake house was untouched, Theodore's coffee mug still on the counter, his glasses beside a novel. The security panel's red light blinked, indicating active recording. The system was advanced, cameras in every room, motion sensors, audio capture. Theodore had been meticulous about protecting his assets and himself. I spent hours navigating the interface, sifting through footage of empty rooms and wildlife. Then I found conversations that made my blood boil. The cameras caught Diana's calls about contesting the will, her talks with Dr. Morrison planning my evaluation, and her rehearsing my symptoms with a scripted list. She talks to herself constantly. She practiced in front of a mirror, reading from notes. Claims Theodore guides her from beyond. She laughs or cries for no reason. Yesterday, she stared at a wall for 2 hours. None of it was true. The wall staring was me studying Theodore's financial reports. The crying was grief. The laughing was finding a humorous note in his files. But she'd crafted a narrative of mental illness with clinical precision. I dug deeper and found Theodore had been documenting Diana's behavior for months, her demands, threats, and attempts to alter the will. The cameras captured it all. "I don't care if you think she deserves it," Diana snapped in one recording. "Quinn isn't your daughter. I'm your wife. That money's mine." Theodore's calm reply, "Quinn's been more family in 10 years than you have in 15, Diana. She's earned it." In another, Diana raged, "You're making a mistake. Quinn doesn't love you. She's just nice because you're dying, and she wants your money." "Even if that's true," Theodore said, "at least she's been kind. You've been greedy from the start." The real gem was a final recording from his last week when he could barely leave bed. "Quinn, if you're watching this, Diana's trying to take what I left you. I started recording after she threatened to contest the will. I knew she'd claim you're unstable, that you don't deserve this. None of it's true. You've earned every cent with your kindness and love. Use these files to protect yourself. You're stronger than her. You're the daughter I chose, not the one after my bank account. Whitman will help. You have friends. Don't let her greed destroy what we built. I love you, kiddo." I sobbed in the empty house, surrounded by proof of his care. I copied the files to flash drives, my heart racing. This could ruin Diana's case and possibly land her in jail. I called Whitman. "I have proof. Meet me at the lake house." An hour later, we reviewed the footage on Theodore's TV. Whitman's face darkened. "This is conspiracy to commit fraud," he said. "Maybe criminal conspiracy. We need to go to the police now." Am I safe from the psychiatric hold? With this? No judge would approve it. Morrison's evaluation relies on Diana's lies. These recordings destroy his credibility. We organized the evidence: audio, video, timestamps of Diana's deceit. By evening, we had a full dossier. "There's more," Whitman said. "Morrison's been in 12 inheritance disputes in 7 years, always the same pattern. This could be a bigger scandal." Detective Hayes met us at the station. We played the recordings, starting with Diana's calls with Morrison and her rehearsed lies. "This is enough for arrests," Hayes said. "Conspiracy to defraud, attempted theft, false medical reports. Dr. Morrison was arrested at what he thought was my competency hearing, carrying a predated evaluation declaring me unfit. You're under arrest for fraud, false medical evaluations, and fraudulent medical practice," Hayes said, cuffing him in the courthouse lot. Diana was arrested an hour later, screaming about disloyal children as they cuffed her in our kitchen. "She's the crazy one!" she yelled. "She talks to ghosts!" "We have 47 minutes of recordings proving you fabricated evidence," Hayes said. "I suggest silence." The charges included conspiracy to defraud, attempted theft, falsifying records, and perjury. Morrison faced additional charges for his competency evaluation mill. The investigation revealed his scheme's scope, dozens of similar cases targeting inheritances. The facility I was meant for was also probed, known for holding patients during estate disputes. At Diana's bail hearing, the prosecutor played the footage. Her rehearsed lies, paired with the real audio, were damning. The judge set bail at $500,000, which neither she nor Morrison could pay. During her sentencing, Diana showed her true self. "Your Honor, I gave Theodore 15 years, she said. "Quinn manipulated her way into his fortune," the judge interrupted. "We have recordings of you admitting you married for money, never loved him, and saw Quinn as an obstacle. Your words contradict your claims. The recordings were admissible, taken by Theodore in his home. Diana got 2 years and restitution. Morrison lost his license and got 5 years. The facility charged $800 daily for inheritance-related patients, averaging 6-month stays. Diana's letter from prison, begging for money and promising a renewed relationship, arrived last week. I sent back a photo of Theodore's grave and the scholarship fund's report, writing, "Some things, like integrity, can't be inherited. Others, like love, can't be stolen." She refused the letter. I still talk through decisions aloud at the lake house, as Theodore taught me. The restaurants grew to 5 locations, with a 6th planned. I hired a security firm and changed the locks, ready for Diana's release in 18 months. We created a resource network for inheritance fraud victims, leading to new laws requiring multiple evaluations for competency disputes. Theodore's legacy thrives through kindness, not greed. The restaurants employ 200, with living wages and benefits. The scholarship fund supports 23 students yearly. Every time I help someone fight greed, I hear Theodore say, "That's my girl."